Our regular group of 4 couples had a party once a month. The party started on Saturday afternoon, and we usually partied until the evening. We had a hell of a good time drinking and telling all kinds of wild stories. The company included my wife Judy and I, Ray Stabler, my sister Pat and her husband Bruce Vincent, Nancy and Jim Seaver, Jill and Wayne Bisler. Pat, Nancy, and Jill worked alongside my wife at Connor Construction, Inc., a well-known regional construction firm specializing in public buildings, schools, and churches. Pat introduced me to Judy 4 years ago. After a brief courtship, we became a couple, and 3 years ago, we were married. I believe we had a very good marriage, and I know I loved her with all my heart and felt she reciprocated me. As I said, the stories were hot and heavy, and the drinks were poured heavily and often. It wasn't long before some of us were no longer feeling the pain. Jill had gotten pretty drunk by then and was non-stop talking about how she went on a date with a guy named Jamie and got caught by her regular boyfriend, Philip. Philip was furious, and of course, that ended their relationship, but she wouldn't continue dating James. After a while, she met Wayne, dated him, and eventually married him. My wife Judy remarked, "Wow, Jill, that must be really awkward. I've never had that experience of being caught doing something I shouldn't have been doing." Jill drunkenly replied, "Are you kidding, Judy? Hell, you almost got caught with Carl's black baby in your belly after you slept with him for a whole week 2 years ago while Ray was away." Everyone in the room was shocked by that comment, and I heard Judy sigh, and then Wayne said, "Jill, why don't you just shut up?" I was clearly shocked by this comment and jumped up saying, "What the fuck?" The next thing I knew, I was lying on the floor. Apparently, I had been unconscious for a couple minutes and was just starting to regain consciousness. I later found out what had happened to me. I was having what's called a seizure reaction related to the vagus nerve. It occurs due to stress, a sudden onset of strong emotions, and getting up too quickly. There are other triggers, and one of the most recognizable is watching medical procedures. This is what causes soldiers to pass out while standing in line for injections. In such circumstances, even watching another person pass out can cause fainting. Anyway, I was stressed out, very emotionally disturbed. I got up too quickly, and here I am lying on the floor. They tended to me, and as I started to slowly come to my senses, I heard some of them say, "Jill, what the hell did you say that for?" "I just don't know, Judy. I had too much to drink, and I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you and Ray. I'm so sorry." I decided to play it cool for a couple more minutes and see what else I could find out. My sister Pat said, "Well, the cat is out of the bag and we'll just have to take it as drunken babble on your part." Everyone else agreed and said, "We don't even know if he'll remember what he said, so just act calm and try to get over it. If he remembers, we'll just say Jill is drunk and stupid, agreed?" I finally felt better and sat up. I knew I needed to relax for a few minutes, so I just sat there and was quiet. I mulled over Jill's words and tried to figure out what had happened. When I was sure I was going to be okay, I slowly got to my feet and straightened up. Everyone looked at me with questioning looks. I pretended to be calm for a moment and slowly made my way towards the door. Judy asked me, "Baby, are you okay?" I looked at her and then at everyone else in the room. "No, Judy, I'm not okay. I just found out that my wife is a cheater. I just found out that she slept with Carl Jackson for probably a whole week while I was at Air National Guard training 2 years ago. I just found out you were pregnant with his baby and probably had an abortion. I now know that you did not miscarry like you told me and you did have an abortion. So no, there is nothing wrong with me." Tears were streaming down Judy's face, but at that moment I had no sympathy for her in the slightest. "What's more, I just found out that all of you, including my own sister, knew about it, but no one bothered to tell me. No, I'm not okay. I'm getting out of here. None of you are following me or talking to me or calling me. All of you just stay away from me." I needed to leave, so I got in my truck and drove. I knew I needed to be alone and think things through. My truck was a bright red Ford F-150 with a ton of chrome, and I knew that if I kept using it, I wouldn't be able to stay hidden from their prying eyes for long. My friend Jack lived on a farm 20 miles out of town, and he had a big machine shed where I could put my truck. I knew he would be nearby, so I drove over there. I let him know I was having trouble with Judy, and he agreed to help me out. We parked the truck in the barn, and Jack drove me back into town and dropped me off at the Hertz rental place near the airport. I rented an unremarkable Chevrolet Impala for a couple weeks. I figured by then I'd make a decision for the rest of my life and wouldn't need to escape anymore. I checked into a decent courtyard by Marriott Hotel on the edge of town with a lounge and restaurant. I had had enough to drink and didn't want to be even more drunk than I was. I sat and reflected on what had happened, and some things gradually became clearer to me. It took a while, but soon I seemed to realize exactly what had happened. 2 years ago, at a Christmas party at Judy's, Tanya Jackson came up to me. She stopped next to me and said, "Ray, you're a really cool guy. How would you feel about having sex with me?" I was shocked, but truth be told, also flattered. Tanya is a very sexy woman with beautiful blonde hair and a body that would stir up desire in any man. If I was ready to have an affair, I realized that I would have to mess around with her. I figured she was very drunk and didn't mean anything by it, but I was still flattered. However, I said to her, "Tanya, you're certainly beautiful and sexy, but I'm not a free agent. I'm sorry, but I won't do that to Judy." She smiled at me and said, "Well, I tried. When you're ready, just give me a call." I was a little puzzled by this comment, but just let it pass and went back to the party. I have to admit it made my night enjoyable and didn't hurt Judy much when I was very attentive in bed. At the Christmas party last year, Tanya approached me again. "Are you a free agent yet, little Ray?" I wouldn't say no to you. I let my male ego get stroked for a minute, but then I told her, "You know, Tanya, this is getting tiresome. I told you I wouldn't do that to Judy, and I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't do it again." Tanya replied, "That's too bad, Ray, because you and I would have had a great time together. I won't bother you anymore, but when you're ready, just give me a call." I now realized that Tanya had known all along that Carl was sleeping with Judy and was trying to get even with him. I decided to call her and talk to her. After thinking about it for a while, I found Carl Jackson's phone number and called. Luckily, it was Tanya who answered the phone and not Carl. "Tanya, this is Ray Stabler. I'm ready to talk. If you can get away, I'd like to meet in the lobby of the Marriott Hotel." She said she would be there in 30 minutes. "Great. I'll wait for you there." At exactly the appointed time, Tanya entered the lobby and all eyes in the place were on her. She was as beautiful as I remembered from the Christmas party. She was wearing a modest but very attractive dress, and her long blonde hair hung down her back. I think everyone in the room turned to look at her when she came up to me at the bar. I hugged her gently, and we sat down at a table at the back of the room because I wanted to be alone with what I wanted to talk to her about. "Tanya, I've called you in for a talk, and I'm sure you know the reason why. Just tell me straight, did you or did you not know about Carl sleeping with my wife, Judy?" A mischievous smile appeared on her face, and she replied, "Ray, of course I knew about it. Why do you think I wanted to play around with you a little? I wanted to have an affair with you and smear it all over Carl's face, and I still want to do it. Well, I just found out about this little affair today, Tanya, and I'm not sure that playing games with you, as you call it, would be in our best interest at this point, but I really want to know everything you know about this situation. I know they were having sex because I actually caught them in my house. I was supposed to spend some time with my mom, but I decided to come home early. I caught them sleeping in my bed, Ray. They didn't know I saw them because I left and stayed the night at my friend's house. I didn't want to run into them together until I had time to think things over. I decided a night with my friend would allow me to air my brain. If you need to check, I'll give you her name and phone number. Anyway, when I got home the next day, I told Carl about having an affair. I didn't know the woman's name at the time, and Carl tried to lie to get out of the story, but I told him that I really saw him, and no matter how much he lied to me, he wouldn't get out of it this time. I asked, What do you mean this time? I suspected that he had other affairs, but in the past he'd managed to get away with lying. I didn't have proof before, but now I do. I was puzzled, but asked, "If you caught him with my wife and suspected him of other affairs, why are you still with him?" "I can't help it, Ray. I love him. We were sitting at the table and I told him I would divorce him if he didn't confess everything to me. If he didn't promise me, he'd never cheat on me again. Unless he promised me that he would agree to let me get revenge on you without a word. We went to a lawyer, he drew up the papers, and Carl signed them. If he reneges on his word, I get everything in the divorce." He confessed all his many adventures, every little detail, who, when, where, and how many times. He was pretty detailed, Ray, so I guess I know everything. He promised that he would never cheat on me again if I stayed with him, and promised that I could get back at him without any reprimands or repercussions. I smiled at her and said, "Truth be told, I'm not ready to be your fucking vigilante yet, Tanya, until you tell me all the details you know. I want to know everything, no matter how much it hurts me." Over the next 2 hours, Tanya laid out everything I wanted, or didn't want, to know about Judy and Carl's affair. It started with flirting and outright harassment from Carl, and eventually Judy became curious about me and a black man being at an Air National Guard camp for a week. She gave in to his advances and spent hours with him every day while I was away. As far as Tanya knew, Judy never found out that she and Carl had been caught off guard by her. She told me everything she knew about the other affairs, and when she was done with the subject, I think she knew as much about Carl's affairs as he did himself. By the time we were done, I had made a decision about what to do about Judy and what to do about Tanya. I asked her, "Tanya, I'm going to be away from here for a few days. Will your fucking revenge allow you to accompany me?" She smirked. "As far as I'm concerned, yes, but I'd have to tell Carl about it, and I'm not sure he'd agree. It seems to me, from what you've said, that he won't be able to refuse. But tell him this. Either he'll agree to let you go on a little trip with me, say for a week, or sometime in the near future. I'll beat the crap out of him and fix him up so he never has to deal with you or some other poor bastard's wife ever again. I think that should encourage him to make up his mind." "I think so," she replied with a laugh. "Then come up to my room for a few minutes while I get everything ready." With those words, we left the lobby, took the elevator up to my floor, and walked down the hallway to my room. Once inside, I took Tanya's hand and led her to the couch. Before I let her sit down, I pulled her to me and kissed her, but just enough to let her know that we were not brother and sister. I said, "If we're going to fly to Vegas for a week, I should at least have a rough idea of what I hope to get there." She cringed. "Vegas? You're going to take a little trip to Las Vegas with me? I don't care what Carl says, I'm going with you. I've never been to Las Vegas, and I've always wanted to go there." "Okay, then let me make a couple calls, and then I'll send you home to let Carl know and pack." I turned on my cell phone and saw several messages from Judy, which I deleted without listening, and one message from my sister Pat. I decided to answer it immediately, so I pressed redial for that call. When she answered, I didn't give her a chance to speak, simply saying, "Pat, I think I was clear when I said no one, including my traitorous sister, should call me. I said no calls. Believe me when I tell you for the last time, everyone is leaving me." After that, I hung up the phone. I went to my contact list and dialed Vince Amato's number. His real name was Vincenzo, but he had changed it to an Americanized name to simplify his life. He and I were best friends in high school and college. We still see each other a couple times a year, and I think our friendship will last a lifetime. When he replied, I said, "Vincenzo, if you say yes, I will consider you the best casino host in Las Vegas. But if you say no, I will continue to consider you the biggest horse's ass. Do you have a room available for me starting tomorrow night? Can you do that? What will you choose, yes or no?" His answer was the usual. "Assuming it's the biggest asshole, my former friend, who should consider himself lucky if I ever talk to him again. There's no way in hell I'm giving you a room. Perhaps I'll put you in a closet. However, the Bellagio Hotel and Casino will gladly give you a room for a few days. Will you be traveling alone, or will your charming wife be with you? Vince, my charming wife isn't so charming to me anymore, so she won't be traveling with me, but I won't be alone. I think it would be best if you booked a room with 2 beds just in case. We're both married to people who cheated on each other, and we may or may not use her terms of fucking revenge. At any rate, 2 beds would be nice. I'm sorry to hear about you and Judy, but I'll set it up and text you with booking info and stuff. Is there anything else you need, Ray? Actually, Vince, do you have any flights from here you could put us on? He laughed. You know, you really are an asshole, Ray, but I can do that too. I'll text you the details. I'll see you tomorrow. Tanya just sat there with her mouth open, completely confused by what had just happened. I suppose I should bring you up to speed. Vince is an old friend of mine who works at the Bellagio Casino. I was best man at his wedding to Felicia, and I've known them both for years. I try to go there a couple times a year and can always count on a free room. I love to gamble, and when I get there, I usually manage to gamble a lot. They love gamblers, and I play enough that the casino loves it when I come back and doesn't mind Vince renting a room for me. Just enjoy the trip, Tanya, because it's going to be fun and wild. We spent 4 nights in Vegas. I always try to calculate how much the trip cost me, and this time it only cost $750, including food, drinks, and gambling. Tanya enjoyed going to shows, gambling in the casino with me and alone, and in the bedroom where we used 1 bed for intimacy and the other for sleeping. No one likes to sleep on wet spots. The intimacy was fantastic, and I loved being with her too. I think we got along great. On the last morning, as we were packing for the trip home, Tanya told me she wanted to talk. Ray, after you talk to your wife, you need to decide whether you're going to stay with her or divorce her. Either way, I think I'd like to be with you again, and I hope you'd like to be with me too. When you make a decision, will you call me? Depending on what you decide, I may have an offer for you. Okay, Tanya, I'll be sure to call you in a few days. I must say I had a wonderful time with you and enjoyed making love to you. You are an amazing woman. Thanks also for all the information on Carl's business. It will come in very handy for me in the near future. When we got back to our hometown, I called Judy and said, I want to come home and talk, but I will only do so when the whole group gets back together, so I can talk to all of you at one time. Judy replied, Oh, Ray, can't we talk just the 2 of us? No, Ray said. I want to talk to all of you at the same time, and if you don't agree, I won't come home at all. She agreed, we set a time, and Judy said they would all come. Tanya and I took an Uber to her house, and I asked the driver to wait for me while I walked her to the door. I pulled her to me, hugged her tightly, and gave her a long and passionate kiss. I don't know if Carl was there and if he could see Tanya and me, but I hoped he could. The Uber guy drove me to Jack's, and I picked up my truck. I called Judy again to make sure everyone was all set, and they were. When everyone was gathered in the living room, I told Judy about the affair and the abortion. I accused her of cheating on me and lying to me for 2 years. Judy, you cheated on me and got pregnant, so you had an abortion. You knew I would find out about your health problems, so you lied to me and told me you had a miscarriage. You said the miscarriage had somehow damaged you and you would never be able to have children. I felt so bad for both of us, but I loved you so much and told you it didn't matter. I treated you like a queen because you looked so sad, and I wanted to comfort you and let you know how much I loved you and how special you were to me. But you didn't deserve any of that. The abortion was the reason you couldn't have children in the future, not the miscarriage. Every day we've spent together since then, we've lived a lie. Judy, here's the bottom line. I forgive you for your affair with Carl. I forgive you for lying to me about the abortion, claiming it was a miscarriage. I forgive you for all the deception over the last 2 years. The room was quiet the whole time, but when he said he forgave her, There was a collective sigh and a cautious conversation. Ray sat for a while, putting his thoughts in order. I said, "Let me continue. Over the past week, I've been in contact with Tanya Jackson. She told me all about your affair. It seems she saw the two of you and confronted Carl. And yes, in case you're wondering, we made love. And it was amazing. Tanya is beautiful, sexy, fun to be with, and she's damn good in bed. We really became very close. One of the things Tanya told me is that Carl is sterile. Yes, sterile. No seed, no children. That means, dear wife, that unless you were sleeping with other guys at the same time, you were not pregnant with Carl's black baby. As Jill so eloquently put it, you were pregnant with my baby, and you killed my baby. Yes, you killed my baby, and I will never forgive you for that. Never. Tears streamed down Judy's face, and she struggled to keep herself in the chair. Her face reflected the utter horror of what she had done, but I had no sympathy for her. Not for her, nor for the others, who also had a look of disbelief on their faces. I had been on my feet the whole time, so when I was about to leave the room in my house, I turned to the group and said, "By the way, Tanya told me that Carl admitted to having affairs with several blondes besides Judy. Oh wait, I should probably mention that the list included Jill and Nancy and Pat, too. So, guys, it looks like all 4 of our wives are teenagers who wanted to try a black man, but at least I had the decency to tell you that. None of you had the decency to tell me that, so now I don't have much sympathy for you. Good luck with your marriage." A few days later, Ray called Judy and said, "I'm filing for divorce, and you'll be served with a summons soon. I think it would be wise of you not to argue with me, or everyone, including your family, will know about your sordid history. I promise to be fair to you, even if your actions were unfair to me. Just sign the papers when they are handed to you. The lease on this house expires in 2 months, and I will pay for it until then. But if you want to stay in it, you will have to sign the contract yourself. I'm assuming spousal maintenance will be paid as well, but you don't make much less than I do, so don't expect it to be huge or to last too long. Just agree to the proposed deal and sign the papers." Epilogue. 2 days later, Judy received the summons and signed the papers. After the allotted time, the divorce was finalized. Judy cried every night after Ray left and almost went into a coma the day the divorce was finalized. She and Ray never spoke again. She knew she had ruined her marriage and just couldn't forgive herself for what she had done. Eventually, she started dating again, but never got serious. She just couldn't be happy with anyone else. The other couples in their group were still together, even though they were going through hard times. Our first family reunion was quite stressful. Our parents wanted Pat and I to kiss and make up, but I wasn't ready for that yet. I guess she wasn't ready either, because I was looked at disapprovingly quite often. I didn't care at all what she thought. However, her husband Bruce came up to me and apologized. He said, "I'm sorry, Ray. I realize now what I should have told you, but Pat didn't want to bring it up for obvious reasons. She knew that if we told you, all the other incidents would come out too. I'm sorry." I told him, "Thanks, Bruce. I wish you had told me too. It would have saved me from losing 2 years of my life." I called Tanya as soon as the divorce was finalized. She said, "I expected you to call sooner, Ray, but I'm glad you called now. You know Carl wasn't happy that you and I spent a week in Vegas, but he knew he had to deal with it. When I got home, I told him I wanted to ask you for a favor. Ray, could you be a father to a couple kids for me? I want kids, and Carl can never give me any. I'd like you to be the father of my kids. We got along great in Vegas, and I'm sure you'll agree that we're very well suited for each other. During my fertile period, I would come to visit you for a few days, and we would make love, hoping you would impregnate me." Carl wasn't thrilled about it either, but I told him it was the only way I could stay with him, and he agreed. I was somewhat shocked by this, but not completely. Tanya, you know I really like you. We had a great time in Las Vegas, and making love to you is everything a man could want. But I have to tell you that a long-term affair and impregnation is not what I would like to do. I think Carl deserved the week we spent together, but it's not in my character to do that to someone long-term. Besides, if I impregnate you, I want to have a relationship with you and be there to raise my children. I'm sorry, but I can't do what you're asking. If you decide to divorce Carl, you and I can get to know each other better, and if we realize we are right for each other, we can get married and have children. That's my suggestion. No matter what, I think you and I can be friends. I know that in the short time we've been together, we've bonded so much. Call me if you want to have lunch sometime. Good luck, Tanya. You are a wonderful woman.